You know that feeling when you send an email and you think you've been perfectly polite, professional, and clear? You hit send, you feel good about it, and then, silence.
Or worse.
Or worse, you get a reply that seems annoyed or confused or asks for the exact thing you thought you just explained.
It's the worst. It's that moment where you realize that message sent does not equal message received.
Exactly. And when you add, thousands of miles and completely different cultural operating systems into the mix.
Specifically between the U.S. and India.
Right. That gap can turn into a canyon.
Ah.
Today, we are unpacking something that goes way beyond don't type in all caps.
Oh, way beyond.
We're looking at the invisible rules of digital etiquette in U.S.-India remote collaboration.
And this is huge. We aren't just talking about manners here. We're talking about efficiency, morale, and frankly, millions of dollars in lost productivity.
All from simple misalignments.
Just from simple misalignments and how we signal respect and urgency.
It's fascinating because looking at the research, it seems like both sides are trying so hard to be good colleagues.
The intent is absolutely there.
But the execution, it's like they're dancing to two completely different songs.
That's a great analogy. And the root of it, if we really boil down the articles and the sociological data, is the difference between high context and low context culture.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the master key for everything we're going to talk about today.
It really is. So generally speaking, the U.S. is a low context culture.
Low context.
Communication is explicit. The words mean exactly what they say. If I say, I need this by Tuesday, I mean...
You need it by Tuesday.
I need it by Tuesday.
Yeah.
The relationship between us doesn't change the meaning of the deadline.
Right. It's transactional, not in a bad way, just in a let's get it done way.
Precisely. Now, India is traditionally a high context culture.
Go.
Communication is heavily influenced by the relationship, the hierarchy, the status of the speakers, and maintaining social harmony.
So the message is not just the words.
The message is often buried inside the politeness to avoid causing offense.
So when a U.S. manager gets an email from a developer in Bangalore, the U.S. manager is just scanning for facts.
Yep.
But the developer has wrapped those facts in 3 layers of bubble wrap to be respectful.
And that's where the friction starts. Let's look at email specifically. The sources highlight this fascinating clash over what constitutes politeness.
Okay.
In India, politeness is often demonstrated through length and formality. You use phrases like, kindly do the needful, or I would be most grateful if you could revert back at your earliest convenience.
Do the needful. It's such a classic phrase. I've seen it a million times. To an American ear, it sounds archaic.
It is.
Like something from a 19th century British law firm.
It is archaic. It's a holdover from the British Raj. But in the Indian context, it's a standard professional way to hand off a task without sounding bossy.
But here's the kicker.
Here's the kicker. To a U.S. recipient, kindly do the needful can actually sound passive-aggressive.
Really? Passive-aggressive?
Yes. Because it's vague. It doesn't say what needs to be done. It puts the burden on the recipient to figure it out. The American polite is efficiency. Politeness in the U.S. is respect my time by telling me exactly what you want.
So while the Indian sender is thinking, I'm being respectful by using formal language, the American recipient is thinking,
why are you making me work so hard to understand this email?
Exactly.
The research suggests that for U.S.-India collaboration, you have to pivot to what linguists call pragmatic competence.
Pragmatic competence.
It's not just knowing English grammar, it's knowing how English is used in that specific room.
So practically speaking, if you're in Bangalore writing to Boston, you need to, strip the Victorian prose?
You do. The sources offer some really sharp comparisons. Instead of please revert back at the earliest, which is redundant and vague,
right,
the American preference is specific. Please reply by Friday.
Which feels abrupt if you aren't used to it. Please reply by Friday. It feels like a demand.
It does, but in a U.S. context, it's helpful. It removes anxiety I don't have to guess when you need it.
That makes sense.
And think about subject lines. This is a huge pain point in the material we reviewed.
Oh, the high subject line.
It's a high subject line or update or just query.
Right.
In a high context culture, you open the email to find out the context. In the U.S., the subject line is the context.
So if you send an email to a U.S. exec with the subject line, hello,
it might sit unread for 3 days.
Because they're triaging. They're just looking for what's important.
Right. The recommended shift here is radical specificity. Decision needed. Q3 marketing budget.
I see.
That tells the recipient exactly what mental gear to be in before they even click.
It's almost like the subject line is the trailer for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If the trailer is boring, nobody buys a ticket.
Perfect analogy. And this leads us to the trickiest part of the email dynamic,
Right.
The request, the ask.
Okay.
In India, because of that deference to hierarchy, a request is often buried in the middle of a paragraph after a long preamble about the project background.
It's the buried lead, as they say in journalism.
It is. And the U.S. reader who is stimming might miss it entirely.
So what's the advice?
The advice here is incredibly tactical. Use bullet points, put the call to action at the top or the very bottom, and use active verbs. Could you confirm? Please send.
It's funny because what we're describing sounds like we're telling people to be rude.
It does.
But we're actually telling them to be clear.
And clarity is the love language of U.S. business.
I love that. Clarity is the love language of U.S. business.
Yeah.
I want to pivot to something deeper than email, though. Let's talk about the yes that actually means no.
Ah, the famous Indian yes. This is probably the single most common source of project failure in cross-border teams.
It drives U.S. managers crazy. They ask, can this be done by Friday? The team says, yes.
And then Friday comes.
Friday comes, crickets. The work isn't done. And the manager feels lied to.
But they weren't lied to, not in the cultural sense. This goes back to saving face and maintaining harmony. In many Indian business contexts, saying a flat no to a superior or a client is seen as a failure of duty or a lack of respect.
So, yes often means what?
It often means, I hear you, or I will try my absolute hardest, or even, I wish it could be done by Friday.
But it doesn't mean the code will be in the repository at 5:00 p.m.
Correct. And the U.S. manager interprets yes as a contractual promise. So when the deadline is missed, trust just evaporates.
So how do you bridge that? Because you can't just tell people to stop being culturally deferential overnight. It's hardwired.
The strategy from the experts is really smart here. It's called the conditional yes, or the constraints-based response.
Okay.
Instead of forcing yourself to say a harsh no, you say, we can do this by Friday if we prioritize it over the bug fixes.
Oh, I like that.
Or Friday is difficult, but Monday is 100% certain.
So you aren't saying, no, I won't do it. You're saying, here's the reality of the situation.
Exactly. You're inviting the manager to solve the problem with you.
So that's a huge shift.
You shift from being a subordinate taking an order to a partner managing a timeline. And that is a massive status shift, but it's one that U.S. managers respect.
They value transparency over obedience.
Transparency over obedience. That's a key distinction. I feel like that applies to the silence issue, too.
The black hole phenomenon.
Right.
You ask a question on Slack or email,
Yeah.
nothing. For a day, 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
To an American, silence is terrifying. It means either you're angry, you've quit, or the building is on fire.
It triggers immediate anxiety. But the cultural logic in India is often, I don't have the answer yet, so I will wait until I have the solution to reply.
They think they're being helpful.
They think, I don't want to bother you with a non-update. They think they're saving your inbox clutter.
But the U.S. expectation is different.
The U.S. expectation is receipt and acknowledgement. Even if you don't know the answer, you must acknowledge the question.
So just a quick reply.
A simple, got it, looking into this, will update you tomorrow, is gold. It buys you time and psychological safety.
It stops the U.S. manager from spiraling.
It does. It signals, I am on the ball, even if the ball hasn't moved yet.
Let's move into the video call, the Zoom room. Because this is where the hierarchy issues we touched on earlier really become visible.
Visibly quiet.
Yeah. You have a meeting with a U.S. client and a team from India.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. folks are loud, interrupting each other, throwing ideas around.
And the Indian team.
The Indian team, especially the junior members, are on mute.
And the U.S. interpretation of that silence is they aren't engaged, they don't have ideas, or they don't care.
But the reality is?
The reality is they are waiting for permission. In a high hierarchy structure, you do not speak over your boss. You do not speak until invited.
So interrupting is a problem.
To jump in and interrupt, which is standard U.S. brainstorming behavior, feels incredibly insubordinate.
So you have a room full of smart people who are culturally gagged.
Right. And here, the burden shifts a bit to the leader or the person running the meeting.
So it's on the manager.
If you are leading a cross-cultural team, you cannot just say, any questions, and wait. You have to cold call.
Cold call? That sounds terrifying.
It's the only way to break the ice. You have to say, Ravi, I know you worked on this module. What do you think about the timeline? You have to explicitly grant the floor.
So you give them permission.
Once you hand them the mic, the hierarchy rule is satisfied. They have permission to speak.
That's a great tip for the managers listening. Don't mistake silence for lack of knowledge.
Mistake it for lack of permission.
And for the individual contributors listening.
If you want to advance in a U.S.-centric organization, you have to get comfortable with what feels like rude interjection. You have to unmute and say, I have a point on that.
That's so hard, though. It's like muscle memory.
It is, but remember, in the U.S., participation is a performance metric. If you don't speak, you weren't there.
Wow. If you don't speak, you weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
That's brutal, but true.
One last thing on meetings that trips everyone up. Names.
Oh, the sir thing.
The sir and madam thing. In India, using titles is a non-negotiable sign of respect for seniority. In the US, especially in tech and modern business, using sir makes you sound subservient. It creates a distance that Americans try to eliminate.
I remember reading about a VP who got annoyed because his team kept calling him Mr. Henderson.
Yeah.
He felt like an old school principal. He wanted to be Bob.
And the team probably felt like calling him Bob was like slapping him in the face. It feels too intimate, too casual.
So what's the rule?
The rule is mirror the signature. If they sign their email, best Jennifer, you call them Jennifer, even if they are the CEO.
Mirror the signature. That's a safe, pragmatic rule.
It validates that you are peers. And that's the ultimate goal of all this digital etiquette. It's not about pretending to be American.
It's about collaboration.
It's about establishing a peer-to-peer dynamic where the work can flow without getting stuck in status games.
It's removing the friction so the actual talent can shine through.
Exactly. You want them to focus on your code, your designs, your strategy, not on the fact that your email was 3 pages long or that you didn't speak in the meeting.
So if we look at the big picture here, we aren't asking people to abandon their culture.
Not at all.
We're asking them to build a user interface for their communication that works for the end user.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's about adaptability. The most successful remote workers are the ones who can code switch.
Code switch.
They can be high context and deferential with their local boss in Bangalore, and then turn around and be direct, concise, and low context with the client in New York.
That is a superpower.
It is. It's a skill set, just like Python or project management, and it's one that makes you invaluable.
This has been such a dense conversation, but in a good way. I feel like we've cracked the code on a lot of these interactions that leave people scratching their heads.
It's one of those things where once you see the pattern high context versus low context, you see it everywhere. Every email, every confused Slack thread.
Absolutely. So for everyone listening, whether you're in Bangalore, Boston, or somewhere in between, take a look at your last 5 emails. Are you being polite or are you being effective?
And are you giving the receiver what they need or what you feel comfortable giving?
That is the question to end on. That's it for this deep dive into the hidden rules of remote work. We hope this helps you navigate your next meeting with a little more confidence and a lot less friction.
Keep bridging that gap.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.